Thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our event. My name is Sharon Bassi. I'm from the Office of Sustainability, and we brought together experts to discuss water sustainability. We have here today Dr. Jean Moran, Cristal Gonzalez, and Amer Orabi. We hope to cover the topics of water conservation, water rights, access to clean water, and we even have someone here today who's created a company on the water bottle revolution. Panelists, if you could quickly introduce yourselves, your name, job title, and short description.
I guess I can go first. My name is Jean Moran. I'm a professor in the Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences here at Cal State East Bay. I study hydrology and especially the relationship between surface water and groundwater and how it can be managed better for a more sustainable situation in California.
Is Cristal on?
Yeah, I'm here. I can go. Hi, everyone. My name is Cristal Gonzalez. I'm a program associate. I work with Clean Water Action. We're an environmental nonprofit based in Oakland, but I've been working remotely. Yeah, I graduated from UC Santa Cruz, and I also work. Well, what we do is mostly focus on policy advocacy in access and affordability water issues here in California, and also groundwater sustainability as well, in terms of like stakeholder engagement. So that's a little bit about what the organization does and what I do and focus on. I'm happy to be here.
Is Mr. Orabi here?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Hi, everyone. My name is Amer Orabi, co-founder, president, and COO at Pathwater. I started Pathwater in 2014 with a group of friends during my junior year at CSU East Bay. I graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's in accounting and finance. What is Pathwater? Pathwater is a lifestyle brand which promotes sustainability in every aspect of our business model. Our core business is to encourage consumers to refill and not landfill. And the way we do that is by packaging purified water in a refillable aluminum container instead of single-use plastic. When we started Pathwater in 2014, we were a tiny brand. I mean, nobody has ever heard of us or what we do or who we are. But fast forward to today, 6 years later, we've definitely grown, and we're currently in over 30,000 retail doors globally. Some of the countries that we sell Pathwater in is obviously the US, Mexico, Canada, Singapore, Australia, just to name a few. And our mission is to literally replace all single-use plastics in every store on every shelf globally. That's what we strive for every day, and hopefully we'll get there one day. Let me just pull my notes.
Mr.
Go ahead.
We're not starting presentations yet. I'm just going to quickly run over my landing launch.
Oh,
get back to you.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry.
Thanks for the overview, that was
no. Go. That's fair enough. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to quickly plug in that I've put in the sign-in sheet in the chat. So if you could sign in really quick, and let me just quickly run through the rest of our introductions. Besides this event, we're going to have a virtual tour of East Bay's Municipal District's wastewater cleaning facility next Tuesday, also during U hours. So I'm going to put the registration link for that as well in the chat. Zoom etiquette. The camera is optional but encouraged. Keep in mind that this event is being recorded for future reference and will be posted to YouTube. Although we will have an open Q&A session at the end, feel free to ask questions as we go. We ask that you type them into the chat or raise your hand so you're not directly interrupting the speakers as we speak or as they speak, or send them to Sarah Smith. Really quick, I have Jillian Buchholz here from the Office of Sustainability. She's going to give our land acknowledgement before we go on.
Hey everyone, everyone. Thank you for joining. As Sharn shared, my name is Jillian. I'm the Director of Sustainability at Cal State East Bay. And just before we get started, I wanted to share that Cal State East Bay is working on drafting and adopting an official land acknowledgement with guidance from Native peoples. While that statement isn't finalized and distributed yet, I wanted to take a moment to recognize the Ohlone Indigenous communities in the Bay Area, specifically Hayward, which is where the main Cal State East Bay campus is located, which is on Ohlone land. I'd also like to note that a land acknowledgement is a good start, but we really should act to support Indigenous communities whose land we occupy. So I've got a lot of different actionable items that you can consider and do, and I'm going to post those in the chat. A link to an interview with Dr. Hayden King about why he regrets writing his campus's land acknowledgement, a pretty cute comedy sketch from CBC talking about the importance to not only recognize Indigenous peoples and land acknowledgements, but also to act behind them. And then also some information about the Indigenous Environmental Network, some information about Native peoples in the East Bay that was put together by the East Bay Regional Parks District, some information directly from the Cal State East Bay website about land information of Indigenous people in our area. And then you can also see what Indigenous land you're on by going to nativeland.ca. So again, I'll put those in the chat, as well as a PDF of resources that was created by the Student Sustainability Ambassador Program at Cal State East Bay. So thank you for being here. And with that, I will pass it back to Sharn. You might be on mute, Sharn.
Thank you.
Got it.
One more quick plug. Nikita, if you want to share something about the club and the water competition that the club is putting on, go ahead.
Yes, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Nikita Banguera, and I'm the Vice President of the Sustain East Bay Club. The Sustain East Bay Club is a student-run organization that focuses on sustainable efforts of the Cal State East Bay campus. The club provides opportunities such as campus cleanups, reuse workshops, and general informational workshops to educate students about sustainability. We also host events that showcase all aspects of sustainability, such as the environment, equity, and economics. This semester, in collaboration with the campus student housing, the club is hosting a water conservation competition across the residence halls to encourage students to conserve water. The competition lasts from October 1st until December 1st, during which we're monitoring the water usage of each resident hall, and the building that conserves the most water wins a prize. We're also sharing tips and facts with students to educate them about the water conservation in California. We hope to instill a sense of awareness among students so that they can make conscious decisions to reduce their water waste footprint. If you're interested in being a part of the club, please fill out the club's interest form that I will put in the chat box right now. Thank you.
Okay, now we can continue with the presentations. Mr. Arabi, if you want to go ahead and finish what you were saying, or go ahead and start your presentation now, and then after you, we could do Dr. Moran and Ms. Cristal.
Yes, thank you for that heads up. I think, like I was saying, Pathwater's mission is to be the global leader in sustainability, and hopefully, our end goal is to literally replace all plastic bottled water on every shelf in every store globally. Some of our partnerships has been with some of the biggest companies globally. San Francisco Airport in 2019, they banned all single-use plastics. We partnered up with San Francisco Airport to replace over 10,000 bottles per day that are sold at San Francisco Airport. But also we've partnered up with some of the biggest companies like State Farm, Apple, Dropbox, and Intuit to replace all their plastic bottled water with reusable bottles in all their offices. And in closing, sustainability was, it's a beautiful thing, and it's the way forward for our planet and ourselves. And initially, I come from the Middle East. We're not really big on recycling or sustainability, but I became really passionate about sustainability by learning about how serious of a problem we're facing today. And they estimate by 2050 there will be more single-use plastics floating in our oceans than fish. it's literally just absolutely mind-blowing, you know, if you really think about that. And what we're doing here is we're trying to make sure that, you know, that doesn't happen, and our planet is healthy for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Are there any questions so far? No? Okay. Dr. Moran, if you could.
Okay, thanks. And I'm fine if Crystal goes first. Does Crystal want to go next?
It's okay. I don't.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
So my thing, I have like a little presentation prepared, and it's kind of the big picture for California of sustainability. So I'm just going to share my screen here quickly. Okay. And hopefully you're seeing that now. And yeah, I just thought I'd start by saying how much I really, really enjoy working on water in California, and especially at Cal State East Bay. So here's a picture of some of my students out in the field collecting water samples. That's what I do all the time. I go out with students and collect samples, and we work on the big picture issues in California, sometimes in individual basins and sometimes looking really at a statewide perspective. So let's see here. So just kind of on a supply and demand look at the state of California. Yeah, so just to be clear, this picture shows where the water's going, but to be clear, where it comes from is the wet parts of the state, right? So the northern part of California and the mountains in California. But where it goes to, well, you can see the bar graphs, right? And it's a little different depending on where you are in the state. But of course, as we are all aware, probably, a lot of it goes to agriculture in California. And especially when we have dry years, then most of the water is going to agriculture. You do have a fair bit of water that, because of wild and scenic river designations or Environmental Species Act, the water has to stay in the streams. And of course, we have some very large urban areas that have a demand for water. Most of that treated water goes to watering landscape and not to into anybody's body, right? So yeah, so we're really on the edge in California. You know, we're all kind of aware too that climate change is bringing climate whiplash. So we have really dry periods, and then we have extremely wet periods. When we have those wet periods, we don't hold the water back very well. So a lot of that not very clean water sometimes goes out to the bay. But there is some really good news in terms of sustainability. So this graph just shows the total water use in blue there and the agricultural use in green. And this is from the period of 1960 to almost recently, and urban use. And then the gray is the population of California, increased very, very much, but not the water use. If you look at agriculture, the value of the crops has increased hugely, but not the water use. So there's a lot going on that has led to better conservation and just better use of the water while not affecting the economy, right? So the economy is thriving, especially the parts of the economy that need water. And the urban areas in particular have done a very good job of conserving water, okay? But to go back to this issue of wet years versus dry years, I don't know about you. Of course, we had a dry year last year. We only got about half the precipitation that we would normally get, but we had a period there. Our memories aren't too long, we humans, but we had a period not too long ago where we had 3 very dry years in a row. And I don't know if you felt like you suffered much or you paid more for produce, but personally, I didn't pay any more for produce. I didn't really suffer very much at all. And why is that? How do we sort of get away with that? It's because when it's dry, we turn to groundwater, and that is the go-to, especially for agriculture. So during those dry years, we turn on a lot of pumps. You could not get a driller during those dry years. They were so busy out there drilling wells deeper, and people were pumping lots more water. So the problem with that, as you see in this map right here, is that we over pump, right? We're mining that water. Really, it's not being replaced on the same time scale as it's being removed. And then you have a drop in the water level. And I'll get to the other consequences of groundwater overdraft in a minute here. Okay. But to get back to a very human part of it and sustainability part of it, we don't want to lose the connection between a water quantity and water quality. They're very much linked. And this has been an issue for decades, that there's a significant portion really of the population of California that goes without safe and affordable drinking water every year. And here on the right, you can see a map of all the communities where at least one or more chemicals is found at above the health-based regulatory limit for drinking water. And most of these chemicals that you see here are groundwater related. So the communities in general, the communities that have issues with both water quality and water quantity, are dependent on groundwater. They tend not to be the urban areas that have a surface water supply or a mixed supply that is treated to very firm drinking water regulations. And so especially during that last drought, there were a number of communities whose wells just basically went dry, and they had major issues with just the supply of water in addition to the quality of the water. So you can see that these maps, that there's a pretty good correlation between the locations of water supply issues and water quality issues. Okay, and remember that in general, those are going to be communities that are served by groundwater. Sometimes it's a well in someone's backyard, right? And sometimes it's a little community well, but it tends to be groundwater. So as the water levels were sinking, especially in the Central Valley, some bad things were happening. In particular, this one in the middle at the bottom, there was land subsidence that was affecting some major infrastructure in the Central Valley. So bridges and aqueducts were cracking because the land was sinking. And that was really the main impetus for this legislation that was enacted in 2014. Prior to this legislation was the Wild West in California. If you wanted to drill a well and pump as much water as you wanted to, that's what you did. I mean, it's still like that because these regulations haven't been completely enacted, but this was a very, very big deal, very much changing the way that we manage water in California, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. So it's called SGMA, and under SGMA, which is run by the Department of Water Resources, these 6, as we call them, deadly sins, are not allowed when you prepare your groundwater management plan. So I showed the map where just straight up, if you have a pattern where the groundwater levels are dropping, that's not going to be allowed. Reduction of storage, same idea. Seawater intrusion is one that's important in the Bay Area. So when you pump next and you're close enough to the ocean, you reverse the gradient, you reverse the direction of flow, and you get seawater coming into freshwater. And that is not allowed under this Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. You cannot degrade the water quality by pumping too much groundwater. And you cannot pump so much groundwater that you lead to land subsidence. This one on the right is a particularly new and innovative part of the act, because in the past, really surface water and groundwater were treated legally, very separately. And now this explicitly points to the connection between surface water and groundwater. So you can't just pump the heck out of the groundwater, and in the meantime, you're drying up a stream and you're not leaving water that was there for someone's use prior to the pumping. So these are the undesirable outcomes, as they're called, under SGMA. And so, especially in California's Central Valley, where there's a lot of groundwater overdraft, and then also in places like Salinas, California, where there's heavy use of groundwater, they have already put plans in, they have submitted them to the Department of Water Resources. So this analysis here is quite recent. These plans were due at the beginning of this year. Some more plans are going to be due in the coming years. These plans have to show that within about 20 years, these basins have to come into compliance. So they have to come into balance, basically. They have to come into a sustainable situation. And so this is sort of a compilation of the plans that have been submitted so far and what people are saying they're going to do as solutions and ways to come into balance. And so you can see that very optimistically, I have to say, very optimistically, a good portion of people's plans is that they're going to augment supplies, meaning that mainly that they're going to get more water into the ground. And I'll talk about how you can do that in a minute here. but that's definitely a big part of most people's plans. Surface storage, people have come around now to the fact that we're really not going to build new dams in this state. For one thing, we took up all the good spots, and it's too hard to get an environmental impact statement through on a surface water storage. So that's a very small part of it. And then we have some kind of, really, these are all management related issues where you're changing the source and the destination of surface water at different times of years. We have a lot of more recycled water coming into the plans. And then interestingly, although this is sort of an obvious way to come into compliance is to reduce the demand on the water, it's about 20% of the solution in these plans. And you can see that pumping restrictions are in there and land fouling is in there, which you used to just not be able to say that you would do that, but that this has come up in some of these plans. So that is going to be pretty controversial, especially the pumping restrictions and the land fouling. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute here. Okay, but this issue of this big box here, and where this is going to come, how this is going to come about, we have to think about where the water is stored now and where it will be stored in the future, because increasing the storage is a really, really important part of a more sustainable situation.
It's cold and I'm cold.
So as it is now, we have kind of a temporary but very important storage of snowpack. Everybody knows that that is going to be diminishing, has already diminished some, and is going to diminish further because of climate change. We're just going to have less water stored as snowpack. Then we have this complicated system of reservoirs and aqueducts that met out that melted snow water over the years so that farms can grow crops basically all year. So we have those surface water reservoirs, right? Some water is stored in soils, of course, but by far the biggest place to store water, and the one that we got some space freed up by overdrafting, is the groundwater system. So it's aquifers. So this is definitely the targeted place now for the future, where we just need to get a lot more water into the ground. So they call it slow it, spread it, sink it. Slow the water down, spread it out, sink it into the ground. We're going to store it there. When we have dry years, we're going to be able to pump that out and still be in a sustainable situation. Okay. All right, so how are we gonna do that? It's going to require some new infrastructure and basically just some being clever, a little more clever than we are now. Okay, so there's experiments going on now on different farms where that is obviously a very big part of our land use in the state. And so taking storm water, taking water when the rivers are flowing very high and there's flood water, and flooding farm fields while making sure that the crop yield is still okay. That's going to be a big part of the solution. These spreading ponds, you might not notice them. They're around now. We have a bunch of them in the Bay Area, actually. Expansion of that. They can be in urban areas. They can be in suburban areas. You know, a lot of times you're taking over a quarry or someplace where there's an existing depression and using that to spread the water out and get it down. I mentioned that you really cannot build a permanent dam these days, right? That's not a big part of anybody's plan. But for instance, inflatable dams that you put up when you want to hold back some water or divert some water, and then take them down when the fish need to migrate, right? So that you're not affecting the ecosystem as much as we have in the past with dams. And then capturing storm water, especially in urban areas and suburban areas, and getting the infrastructure in place to get that in the ground, and making sure that you do the bit of cleanup that you need before you put water that has run over a street and collected a lot of chemicals, but getting that into the ground in urban and suburban areas, that's going to be a big part of the strategy too. Okay, so this is my last slide. And yeah, so you know, thinking about this idea of retiring farmland, this is going to be places like you see in this picture here, where obviously it's an extremely arid environment. So, in some cases, the economics aren't that good anyway for agriculture, and clearly, you know, the water use has been in an unsustainable manner in some of these places. So, you know, it's kind of fun now to think about what would happen to that land, what we could do in those areas that are now being farmed, but in the future would be turned over to some other use. So you can kind of put your thinking caps on there for a little bit. These are going to be arid areas, okay? A lot of areas in the Central Valley. And the Central Valley, we know in historical times before humans got into the act, moving the water all around, would flood. Those great big rivers coming off the Sierras, every spring they would flood. There was a big system of wetlands that allowed migratory birds to move along there. And so some of the ideas that are coming up now are things like restoring those wetlands in the Central Valley. So allowing the rivers to flood, they'll dry up by the end of summer, but you would still have a thriving ecosystem potentially there. Putting a lot of solar farms in those areas is another area. We don't want the wind to just take the dust away. So putting something down is actually important. Or in some cases, returning it to desert habitat. There's a lot of species that suffer because of the loss of habitat. So those are some of the ideas that are coming out. And I'm happy to take any questions. I haven't been looking at the chat.
If anybody doesn't have any questions, we can start with Miss Cristal's presentation.
Should we just hold questions till the end, Sharn?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, then we can hear from everybody first. Thanks, that was an awesome presentation. I have a lot of questions.
Okay, am I going? Should I screen share? Just, okay. Give me one sec. Okay. So, okay, hi everyone. Again, my name is Cristal Gonzalez, and I'm a program associate with Clean Water Action in our water programs. Program. And I'll be talking a little bit about the pandemic and water access in California. Okay, oh, sorry. Okay, so just wanted to give you all a little context before jumping in into the pandemic and how that's impacted these issues. So some of you may know, but California is actually the first and only state to legislatively recognize the human right to water. So that's a big thing, a big deal. And this was done through AB 685 in 2012. It was signed by Governor Jerry Brown. And essentially, I put a little excerpt in there, but yeah, essentially it's in the name. It's water is a human right, recognizing that people should have access to safe, clean, and affordable water for consumption, for basic needs, right? And also in 2016, the State Water Board adopted a resolution identifying the human right to water as a priority as well. And for the State Water Board and the, sorry, I'm like forgetting the acronym, but so it's a priority for California and continues to be for Governor Newsom, our current governor, has expressed as well. It's a priority for his administration. Okay, I think, and I want to emphasize the components of this, which is safe, clean, and affordable. Okay, so the access to safe and affordable water in California is, here's a map, so you can see, but it's although most Californians have access to safe water, like you open your tap and you can drink it, consume it, no problem, right? About 95%, I think. But actually in urban and rural communities that are served by smaller water systems, don't have a concern of whether the water that comes out is safe to use or drink, or could be potentially harmful to their health. And so I think that's an important thing to note in terms of like an issue of equity and environmental justice. This map is from the Human Right to Water portal, and those red stars you see are water systems that are out of compliance. And although, you know, we kind of see them sprinkled down or sprinkled out throughout California, there is a concentration in the Central Valley, and also, you know, in Southern California and in the Central Coast. And that's important to know. And so, you know, for folks from, you know, these communities, which are often, you know, communities of color, low-income communities, immigrant communities, not being able to access that water, you know, but still having to pay for it, it's like paying double. So you have to pay for the water, you know, that comes out of, you know, your faucet and that you in your house. But in order to meet your needs of, you know, for water, you have to either buy water bottles or get water delivered. So that's an issue of affordability, and which is a component of the human right to water and being able to access water. And yeah, so, you know, we might ask ourselves, well, why doesn't the water system just, you know, address those issues? If the water, if it's contaminated, or if there's some levels of, you know, whatever, XYZ, sometimes those solutions are, most of the time those solutions are pretty costly. And so that, you know, the customer or, you know, the households end up having to, we'll see that, right, in terms of their water rate. And so that's important to know as well. Okay. And more on a household specific level in terms of affordability, over 350,000 Californians are estimated to have had their water shut off in 2019. And another study conducted by Pacific Institute found also, you know, these high numbers, reports. The number from the first number was actually gathered by the State Water Board. They do an annual electronic report that survey, it's a voluntary survey that water systems do, you know, complete. And recently there was a portion added to report shut off information. And this is a conservative estimate because it's not mandatory. You know, a lot of water systems didn't report that information. So again, that's a conservative estimate that we have. But just to give you all an idea of like how it's an issue. And so this is before the pandemic, that we recognize this and see that, you know, people experience water shutoffs pretty frequently, right? Meaning, again, that relates to, you know, the water rate. Water rates and the utility bills are coming out pretty costly, and it's been increasing over the years. There's other research and articles that you can find on a national level talking about that, as well as in specific states. But that's another component. So now moving to the present time, you know, the pandemic, COVID has has impacted a lot of our communities in many different ways. One here, I'm focusing on the water aspect, right? But on March 4th, the Governor Newsom and California declared a state of emergency. And then March 16th, Governor Newsom declared an executive order, which mandated, like, you know, investor-owned utilities to pause, you know, to stop utility shutoffs. And then not until April 2nd, it was followed by another executive order ordering all of the water systems to stop shutoffs and to reconnect services that had been shut off since the start of the state of emergency, so since March 4th. And we've recently, you know, we've done my organization and other organizations, you know, have been curious and wanting to make sure that people that had their water shut off before March 4th were also included in that. And it seems like that's the case. So that's good news. Okay. Yeah, and so that's just the, you know, the fancy executive order number. If y'all want to read it in more depth, Google it. But these are the main aspects. So yeah, like I said, it places a moratorium, which means it stops all shutoffs due to non-payment for the duration of the emergency declaration. So it's very much tied to, California as the state's response to the pandemic, and how that's been progressing, or the situation. And it also requires the reinstatement of any service shut off, and also directs the State Water Board to develop best practices and guidance to address these issues of, people not being able to pay their bills, and then how is that, and also supporting the public water systems that are subsequently impacted by that revenue loss. Okay. And yeah, so current shutoff protections, this is under SB 998, which again was passed in 2018. It's a good foundation, definitely. Like I mentioned, shutoffs were already an issue, right, that we were seeing impacting communities across California. And so it does the following. It makes sure, it requires that water systems have a written a policy publicly available in different languages on their website, and it allows repayment of water debt of 12 months or more. It also limits the water system's authority to shut off water to vulnerable households or clients. And this bullet point's not in there, but I feel like it kind of goes into the limiting aspect. There's also limits on the fees for reconnection, because if you miss a payment or aren't able to pay your water bill, you have to pay an additional fee for someone to come out. Once you can pay a portion or all of your bill, you have to pay to have someone come out and reconnect your water. And so that placed like a limit of how much that can be. I want to say it was like between $50 or $70. It can't go more, I believe. And then, however, this only applies to water systems with more than 200 connections. So the small water systems aren't included in this, in these protections. And if you all remember what I mentioned earlier, a lot of the communities impacted by access to water, lack of access to water, are served by small water systems. Okay. And then, so what do we need? So what happens after the moratorium is lifted or the state of emergency is we don't really know. We know that there's a focus on economic recovery, and yeah, everything's kind of up in the air, right? But given the information that we do know of, how many people were impacted by shutoffs in California prior to the pandemic, now, you kind of can infer or just prepare for what may happen down the line. What we want is improved shutoff protections, right? SB 998 is a good start. However, we want that to apply to all public water systems, the small water systems in particular, who most likely will be most impacted by customers not being able to pay. And so we also want to place more limits on the fees and penalties charged on past due accounts. Like I said, there is a limit on reconnection fees, but what we noticed in doing some of our own research, contacting certain water systems, we found that some have gotten around that by charging shutoff connection or like shutoff fees. So for them to have to shut off your water, they're going to charge you. And so it's just so much more burdensome to like have already to owe money, have debt, water bill debt, and then to have these fees piled on. Yeah, we don't want that. So trying to figure out, how we can address that, promoting more flexible repayment options. Ideally, we would want, households not to have to worry about their debt. And for this to be waived, right? Because there's already so many other things to take into consideration, given that we're in this public health emergency, crisis. And so But understanding that water systems, have to function, and some of them rely on this that as a source of income to be able to function. Promoting flexible repayment options, and that kind of segues into the statewide low income rate assistance program. Some utilities like electricity, phone bill have like low income rate assistance programs, but we don't have that for water yet. There are local LIRA programs. However, those are like self-funded by the water agency, so individual water agencies, and essentially the program is only as good, or it depends on the agency, their capacity and ability to provide that to their customers. So I think right now, that program is very much needed looking forward. And then what are we doing? What is my organization, Clean Water Action? Along with our allies, we work with community organizations such as Community Water Center, Leadership Council for Justice Accountability, and we've also been working closely with NRDC, like other environmental orgs, to kind of do some advocacy around this. We've been, so there's a lack of data, or it could just be improved, data collection to better understand the extent of the problem. And so we've been working on that because we really want to know, how many people haven't been able to pay their water bill so far. What's the rate in which that's going, that folks are, building up debt for their water bill. And also, how is that impacting, or has it already impacted water systems' ability to function and provide service? So yeah, data collection, very important. It will help us inform, our advocacy. And then again, trying to find support or help for those struggling water systems through bridge loans, which are like short-term loans. That's a little bit more complicated, or it's a little bit more technical. And then also doing policy advocacy, so lobbying the California Congressional Caucus to include funding for water affordability and infrastructure needs in our in the next federal stimulus packages. That's really important because, California, our budget is like really, a lot of things were cut recently. And so federal money is very much, would be very much very helpful right now to be able to a whole bunch of other things, right? And sorry, I might have, 2-minute warning. Sorry. And that's it, yeah. And then I just have resources here for everyone. I can share these around at some point, or share with the organizers. These are really helpful maps. I'm a visual person, and also if anyone share this link to report any water shutoff, because we know that shouldn't be happening right now. And please stay connected, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. And if you have any other additional questions, please feel free to email me. And that's it.
Thank you for that. Sarah, if you, or anybody, if there's any questions, feel free to chime in and ask them.
So one thing real quick I got in the chat is, considering that, it's the age of social media and especially with, being in lockdown and everything being virtual, and this is for all the panelists, what are some different social media, like Instagram, Twitter, blogs, anything like that? What are some social media accounts that you think are best to follow and support to help get people informed and get people motivated to make a difference?
I could answer that one. That's a great question, by the way. I think, through Pathwater, we've definitely connected with a lot of different social media outlets that are, doing their part in educating consumers or just people in general. I think the Eco Princess Warrior, that's a great IG account. Also, Leonardo DiCaprio, he's always posting about sustainability and just overall initiatives, big initiatives. Also, Mind Body Green. We're constantly in communication with.
Thank you. All right, let's see. I have a whole load of questions here. So we are going to, Amer, since you've already answered, this is kind of a three-part question that is sort of together. One, where do you source your water for your business? And with your company, do you actively support a cleanup or activism? And as somebody who took your passion for sustainability and turned it into a legitimate business, what are some recommendations you have for other students or sustainability enthusiasts to do the same if that's what they want to do?
Of course. I'll answer them in order. We source our water. We have two sources right now. So we use purified water, which is just municipal water. We purify it, and you have drinking water. It's a pretty cool thing that, when we first started the business, you have a lot of different water brands, Smart Water, Dasani, just a lot of different water brands. But in reality, they're all using the same water. It's purified water. They take tap water and they purify it. So our plants are located, we have a plant in Southern California, and then we have a plant in Las Vegas, and we have a plant in North Carolina. We take municipal water and we purify it and we package it. And a really cool thing about bottled water, it accounts for a very low percentage of the total water used, overall. I think Professor Jean touched on it, but agriculture is definitely the highest consumer of water, just overall. For your second question, can you just remind me what it was again?
Yeah, it was just, excuse me. Does your company actively support activism groups or cleanup operations specifically for ocean plastic?
Of course. Yeah, we're very involved with 5 different organizations. And we honestly believe that sustainability is not just tackling, the plastic, waste problem. It's more about, putting together an overall strategy to assist, in many, many issues that we face today. So we've partnered with, I forgot the name, sorry. 5 Gyres. That's a big organization that's going out on expeditions and picking up plastics from the ocean. Plastic Tides, they go actually and pick up. They have, before the pandemic, they would have bi-weekly beach plastic pickups. So we would go out and assist and sponsor as much as possible. But we've also partnered up with National Forest Foundation and a few others. So I think, putting together a overall, contact and partnerships with a lot of these big organizations definitely helps us, get to our sustainability goal. And your last question about how do people that have passion, start their own business? I think honestly, that's like my favorite question. And, it's really, I love answering this because it's it's not simple to start a business, but it's it's a lot easier to start a business that's not sustainability driven. You could, go out and sell sugar, you could make a lot of money, but you're harming a lot of people. So I think for Pathwater, it just takes a lot of hard work. It's never easy, and I know everyone has heard it many, many times. It's definitely a lot of hard work, and you need to have that drive within you to just continue going when everybody tells you no. And we had a lot of rough years. I think the first 3 years of the business, we were just eating Burger King. It was tough, but it gets better, and a good motivation. That's something that I always reference. You're always 30 days away from your next big breakthrough. So if you're thinking about giving up or anything like that, just think that within 30 days, you could be, at your next breakthrough in whatever you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe one more question, and this one is also kind of to everyone. So in understanding that, to really conserve water, we need to change water rights and how we use water on a institutional level. What are some ways that you individually, what are your favorite ways to conserve water individually?
Is that for me?
It's for all of the panelists, sorry.
Yeah.
No, you can go ahead, Professor Jean.
I can go quick. I always tell my students about this because it is really important to kind of start with your own habits and your own, that gets you going, and it makes you feel good, and it makes you want to do more. So we have a gray water system at our house. We are just we reuse all the water on our landscaping, which does not contain a blade of grass. Definitely your food choices are huge, right? That's a really good way to shrink your water footprint, but keeping in mind the energy water nexus, right? So that's another one. I drive an electric car, et cetera, to reduce my carbon footprint, which reduces your water footprint.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm thinking. Well, I think, yeah, just the kind of things that we are kind of common, right? I think, well, for my showers, I try to take, just the time that I need to, and not, stand in there or do other things. I always carry around my reusable water bottle, to be hydrated, but also to reduce having to buy a water bottle or things like that. And then I don't know how common it is, but also where I'm living right now, the water takes a little longer to heat up when you shower. So we use a bucket to, as it heats up, and save that water to, yeah, I mean, you can use it to flush the toilet, you can use it to water your plants, pretty much anything. So that's something recently that I've done. So
I just have to add, I'd like to add one little pointer at the end. I think, it's really good to just think of stuff, as, in a small scale, and, just take, for example, how long, the average water consumed, while brushing your teeth, if you keep the tap open, that's about 15 to 20 gallons of water. And, I mean, to put it in perspective, that's almost about 100 bottles of, normal, Pathwater bottles. So, these little, changes, in your lifestyle, turning off the water while brushing your teeth, not taking long showers, they definitely help greatly in conserving water.
Well, thank you all. This has been a wonderful presentation, and you had some really great answers. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I got kicked off just as I was about to unmute myself and say something. Okay, let me pull up my. Okay, I think we have 5 minutes left. We're running out of time, and I want to be mindful of everybody's time. And I want to thank the speakers for coming out and speaking today. Really quick, here's another plugin for the sign-in sheet. Please sign that if you get the chance, so we can take attendance. The next Sustain East Bay meeting will be this Thursday during U hour from 12:15 to 1:15. If you'd like to attend, please fill out the club interest form that I hope Nikita will put into the chat because I lost the link. Thank you. And also, I want to do another plug-in for our wastewater treatment plant tour that's happening next Tuesday. I have the registration link for that in the chat as well. Please be sure to follow us on Instagram, social media. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube to stay updated. Our handle for all of those is just at Sustain East Bay. We also have a Slack channel. It's if you want to add it to your Slack channel, you just have to you can click this link and add it, but you can also, when you're searching channels, just type in SUST-students, SUST-students, and you'll automatically be signed up for all of our sustainability announcements as well. So you can stay in the loop for any like future events that we're having and things like that. Don't forget the campus is closed tomorrow, so you might not have to attend your classes. Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming. And if you could have a silent round of applause for our panel, we hope to see everybody at the next meeting. Stay safe. Thanks, everyone. The speakers can stay on if they want to talk with us. That's fine.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for putting it together.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out.
Thank you for sharing.
Hold on, we can debrief once everyone